Hello, people! This is Matthew Mayfield, and with the recent semi-retirement of SCMediaWorks, he has given me the rights to some of his shows, one of which being Logo Mysteries, now has a new home, here, on my channel. Together, let us work hard on uncovering these sought-after mysteries, and again, thanks to Steven for giving me those rights. I look forward to doing more episodes of this show. People talk about the Tat Rising Star and other mysteries seen on movies and TV, but we've got to open up in other areas. We have plenty of other mysteries to be solved, and today, we're doing things a bit differently. An area I think is a bit overlooked. Sound logos, as in the bumpers you see in theaters, or perhaps even some video releases, especially later laserdiscs. Plenty surface on YouTube, the Snipes as they're called, sound technology companies such as Dolby, DTS, Sony Dynamic Digital Sound, and THX. And they have their own mysteries and most wanted finds, like the 1988 version of THX Submarine, or the DTS Water Drops. And some sound trailers have ended up lost in time, perhaps even among collectors of film. Basically, it's on par with finding the TAT logo, if not harder. That said, there are a few more sound logo mysteries to bring awareness to. So come join me for the new episode of Logo Mysteries. Our first subject will be a long-lost Dolby Stereo SR trailer, with one notable instance of this appearing in 1991 during a theatrical run of Thelma and Louise in New York. From Filmtech.com, according to Bobby Henderson, the only ones I ever saw was a THX Submarine trailer on the front of Thelma and Louise at the newly opened Lowe's Village 7 in 1991. And I even played a Dolby SR night too. Just some orchestra music playing with SR switching on and scrolling up a big white WSR logo. And here's how it might have looked. According to research on the Dolby catalog, it doesn't mention any trailers that look like this. In fact, the earliest known trailer Snipes was a Mancini trailer, which debuted in fall 1990. The early version does have the Dolby Stereo SR logo at the end. However, the only proof of its existence was seen on a YouTube upload from 2009. It was a potato recording, presumably filmed during a showing. You can see people getting up and hear the audience cheering. The clean uploads that are on YouTube are the later versions with just Adobe text in the box. However, there's a company called Filmac who's well known for making trailers, even for Dolby. They made a Zap trailer, presumably from the late 70s, and reportedly made it for your listening pleasure trailers, which presumably were from the mid to late 80s. And two versions of these exist, with Dolby Stereo and Dolby Stereo SR. If I may play devil's advocate here, it may be possible that Bobby Henderson may be referring to the For Your Listening Pleasure trailer. I know he said it had orchestra music, but there is a possibility he might have thought the whooshes were music, and in that trailer, the spectral recording text does turn on, as he puts it, and the logo is white, and it does scroll upwards through space. I'm not saying it as fact, just presenting a theory. So is it possible there's a third Dolby Stereo SR trailer that needs to be unearthed? A possibility, so this is a case that's open. Before moving on, a few more minor mysteries for Dolby Stereo SR. The format was tested out on a few 70mm showings of Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, back in 1986. It was under the name Dolby Spectral Sound, but since 70mm theaters weren't exactly widespread and was just a testing, this might be a reach. But could there have been a bumper for Dolby Spectral Sound? I'm presenting that possibility. Now flash forward to the summer of 1987, where Dolby Stereo SR made its official debut on RoboCop and Interspace, and the end credits has something of a prototype version of the logo, which was used in other films around the time, mainly from Orion. Just a regular Dolby Stereo logo with a giant word Spectral Recording. Such a gaudy looking logo. Glad they changed it. But could it have existed in the For Your Listening Pleasure variant? Just presenting possibilities. For the next subject, we'll talk about DTS. No, not the water drops. Rather, another pretty obscure DTS format. As you all know, DTS entered the sound market in 1993 with a bang, with Jurassic Park, one of the biggest blockbusters that year. And other films would follow using DTS digital sound. And they would have analog backup from their films, unlike our next entry we'll discuss in a moment. In the early days, the analog backup was from Dolby, but somewhere down the line, DTS introduced their own analog backup called DTS Stereo. You might have seen this logo at the end of MGM UA and Universal films in the mid-90s. And yes, this is also a theater format as well. Apparently, it debuted in summer 1994 on Blown Away. It would be used on movies that not only supported the format, but was also made for those theaters at the time that still used stereo formats, such as Dolby. But with time, the number of theaters that use digital sound, whether Dolby, DTS, or SDDS, ever so increased, and DTS stereo was more or less gone by the beginning of the new millennium. Or at least in the United States. Believe it or not, according to IMDb and YouTube research, DTS stereo was used mainly on movies in international territories such as Japan well into the 2000s, and the end credit logo was still seen on movies in the region as late as 2009. For the logo, you can see it's a camera lens with DTS and a light beam with stereo. I have a video how it might have been animated. Unlike the Dolby Stereo SR video I showed, I have no information about what the logo looks like animated. This is all strictly a theory. Here, watch. It's a possibility. I may be wrong, so whenever the damn thing surfaces, just remember, like I said, it's a theory! Look at these ads. It was its own separate system as you can see. Theaters had DTS digital sound, others had DTS stereo. So surely, there has to be a trailer made for it. Like I said, the system wasn't that popular with theaters using other stereo systems, and even some upgrading to digital. So this could be a tough find. On another note, DTS Stereo did have its own surround sound system used on a few VHS tapes akin to Dolby Surround called DTS Stereo Surround. They're all on MGM releases such as Blown Away, Tank Girl, The Pebble and the Penguin, among a few others, as well as seen on a few Japanese movies. Sadly, no on-screen logo is used on tapes, but there is always a possibility of foreign releases having it. Dig around the PAL region for tapes, perhaps SECAM, or maybe even the NTSC videos in Asian territories. Also possibilities. And hope somewhere the trailer might surface on eBay. I hope Jonathan Froese would have it, but appears his channel is dormant now, sadly. So again, this is another case that remains open. Our last subject for today is an earlier form of digital sound. Dolby entered the market in 1992 with Batman Returns in a few select cities, and DTS entered it in 1993. Now one would think they were pioneers, right? Sure, in a sense they did their own things and found success, but they weren't the first to attempt digital sound. That would be CDS, or Cinema Digital Sound, going all the way back to 1990. The product, which came from Eastman Kodak and Optical Radiation Corporation, the main appeal of CDS was to make audio that sounds like something you would hear on audio CDs, boasting superior sound than that heard on standard analog 35mm and 70mm films. It debuted on 70mm prints of Dick Tracy, would later dive into 35mm prints and used on other following films: Days of Thunder, Flatliners, Edward Scissorhands, The Doors, Hudson Hawk, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, For the Boys, Final Approach, and Universal Soldier. And this format was used in certain states and in Europe. Now, something with such superior technology, you wonder, how did this not catch on? Well, for starters, there were reports of the system being faulty and stopped working. Well, no problem, as long as you've got a nice backup analog track to watch a film on, right? Ugh. And that was the problem with CDS. Films printed in a format only had the CDS track, and the analog tracks were on separate prints. So if you wanted to watch the film but the system wasn't working, you were out of luck. And that would result in a death knell for CDS in 1992. Now, as for an on-screen logo, again, this comes from Bobby Henderson's post about Thelma and Louise. Yes, there was a CDS trailer made, but I never saw it on any of the few CDS shows I watched in New York City, nor Atlanta either at the Terminator 2 engagement and at Cineplex Odeon. I forget if it was Lenox Square or what. Anyway, I recall reading an article about CDS in one of the film trade magazines back in 1990 when the system was getting its 35mm format up and ready to run. The guys at Optical Radiation Corp talked about test audiences in LA cheering the CDS ad when it played. Might have been a cheesy ad for never getting to see it. But then, New York theaters were never good about showing snipes. So one definitely exists, and I have an idea what it might have looked like, or at least the finished logo. Look at this ad. It's a stylized CD on a purple-black gradient background, and this is what we're looking at. Imagine the possibilities on how this could have been animated. Maybe the C and D could have flown in together and merge. Who knows? But we do know a snipe exists. It needs to be unearthed, as does working CDS technology. It has to exist somewhere. So again, this is another case that's open. Oh, and one more thing. Looking around on YouTube, there's a format I saw called Digital Cinema Sound. Don't let the name fool you. It has nothing to do with CDS, and it's a separate thing. So those are the logo mysteries I present here today. Obviously these will be harder to find, perhaps even more so than a TAT logo, but we can at least bring some awareness to these mysteries, and perhaps even some cinephiles could help. Hopefully Jonathan Frost makes a comeback. If not, someone will take up the mantle and hopefully answer these questions, as well as find the DTS wire drops in the original 1988 THX Cimarron trailer. I hope you all enjoyed the first episode of Mayfield produced Logo Mysteries. Thanks for watching.